You're watching Sky News at 7. The top stories tonight.
We're going to get to the bottom of it, and there will be severe punishment.
A warning from Donald Trump to Saudi Arabia over the disappearance of the journalist Jamal Khashoggi will be live in Riyadh. Also tonight, underwater in Wales, parts of the country hit by the worst flooding in 30 years. Theresa May's Brexit plan under attack from all sides. Jacob Rees-Mogg compares the EU to a mafia-style organisation. 7 climbers killed in Nepal. Rescue teams search for 2 more still missing on a Himalayan mountain. Paying tribute to the sacrifice of firefighters as the Labour leader says cuts to their service are putting lives at risk. And in Sportsline at 7:30, Wigan and Warrington go for the biggest prize in the Super League, the Grand Final. Good evening. Donald Trump began his presidency by brokering a $110 billion arms deal with Saudi Arabia. Riyadh was the first foreign capital he visited after winning the White House. But tonight he's promising severe punishment if Saudi Arabia is found to be responsible for the disappearance of the journalist Jamal Khashoggi. We're going to be live in Riyadh in a moment, but first, Turkey claims to have audio and video evidence that the Washington Post columnist was murdered inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. From there, our special correspondent Alex Crawford reports.
There's no let-up in the pressure on Saudi Arabia and plenty of activity at its consulate in Istanbul. With the world's eyes on them, they have yet to offer any credible explanation about what's happened to one of their most high-profile journalist critics. The same Turkish newspaper which claimed a 15-man Saudi hit squad had been dispatched to Istanbul to deal with the journalist has published more astonishing revelations. The Sabah newspaper is reporting that there's an audio recording of both the torture and killing of Jamal Khashoggi from inside the consulate. They say it was made on the Apple Watch that he was wearing when he first went inside the building. Turkish investigators will not confirm that, but they say that the Saudis are not cooperating with any of their inquiries, and patience is fast running out with them worldwide. There's been no sign of the journalist since he entered the consulate on October the 2nd, and his fiancée, who was spotted waiting outside hours later, has been publicly urging the US president to take action. She's tweeted how she planned a surprise dinner on the Bosphorus for her soon-to-be husband to celebrate his 60th birthday. The US president made his strongest comments so far about the journalist's disappearance on American television.
There's a lot at stake, and maybe especially so because this man was a reporter. There's something, you'll be surprised to hear me say that, there's something really terrible and disgusting about that if that were the case. So we're going to have to see. We're going to get to the bottom of it, and there will be severe punishment.
The suggestion that a prominent journalist has just disappeared has prompted outrage across the world, with one senior British MP denouncing it as possible state terrorism.
Britain needs to stand up and say this is completely unacceptable and stand up for international humanitarian law and protecting the rights of individual citizens from what appears or has all the appearance today, and you know, let's get a proper transparent view on this, but what appears to be today an act of state-sponsored terrorism.
The Saudi authorities are becoming ever more isolated. An investment conference like this one filmed last year is due to be held in Riyadh later this month. It was aimed at generating billions of dollars of contracts for the kingdom, but with a slew of media organisations like the Financial Times and Bloomberg pulling their sponsorship, it could end up being a big embarrassment, especially if other companies follow the CEOs of Uber and Viacom and stay away. Turkish journalists who have strong contacts inside the intelligence services are convinced the authorities have damning evidence against the Saudis.
He told me that it's true, there is a voice record. It's enough for me. It's enough for me.
Kebabs and juice were taken into the consulate for those working late. The Saudis have an awful lot of explaining to do. Alex Crawford, Sky News, Istanbul.
Well, in a moment, we're going to be speaking to Alex, who's in Istanbul. But first, let's speak to our diplomatic editor, Dominic Waghorn, who's live in the Saudi capital, Riyadh. Dominic, international pressure growing on the kingdom. We heard from Donald Trump earlier, but what has Riyadh been saying about all of this?
Well, very little until today, when we did have a statement, and they have remained silent really up until now. Saudi Arabia's Minister of Interior, Prince Abdulaziz bin Saud bin Naif bin Abdulaziz, has said that these allegations are false accusations. He says the allegations that Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman ordered the murder of Khashoggi are lies and baseless allegations. Saudi Arabia, he says, is committed to its principles, rules and traditions and is in compliance with international laws and conventions. So an outright denial that really that the Saudi Arabian government had anything to do with that. That's the official response. And we've not had anybody go on camera yet to be interviewed about it. And of course, Saudi Arabia is accused by Turkey of luring this man to its consulate and then either murdering him or abducting him. And what the Saudis have not been able to do yet is prove, and they've been called upon by the Turkish President, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, they've not been able to prove that he left the building alive. And Erdogan says that they should produce CCTV footage, for instance, to prove that. But on the social media across Saudi Arabia, as you'd imagine, the Middle Eastern rumour mill is in overdrive. What people are saying, though, is they believe these could be conspiracy theories, allegations of fake news, saying this is a plot against the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And there's a general disbelief, I think, that Saudi Arabia could be behind this. Having said that, if you believe that Mohammed bin Salman was behind this, you would be unlikely to put on social media, in Saudi Arabia at least, that belief, not least because he's a popular leader at the moment, but also because you might feel, given the sensitivity of the situation, it might compromise your liberty. So there is a huge amount of conspiracy theory, a huge amount of allegation and counter-accusation going on here. And at the moment, a bit of a vacuum. Apart from that one statement from the Interior Minister, there is a vacuum. And in that vacuum, all kinds of, as I say, conspiracy theories are filling the void.
OK, Dominic, thank you so much. Dominic there in Riyadh. Let's go to Istanbul now and speak to Alex Crawford, if we can. Alex, of course, there she is. She's in Istanbul, just outside that consulate. Alex, tell us a bit more about these claims in that newspaper today that the Turks have audio recordings from Jamal Khashoggi's watch.
Well, I think it's coming from several sources now that the Turkish authorities, Turkish intelligence, appear to have some sort of audio recording. The newspaper, the Sabah newspaper, which is a pro-government newspaper, and this particular investigation was done by a team of very well-known investigative journalists. They're claiming that they also have confirmation that the Turkish intelligence have an audio recording. They do go on to say, and this is slightly disputed, that it was recorded on Jamal Khashoggi's Apple Watch, which he wore on the way into the consulate. He left behind his phones with his fiancée. They're saying that once inside, the Apple Watch connected to the Wi-Fi and somehow he was able, or it was able, to make some sort of audio recording of not only his torture but his killing, and they mapped the rooms that he went into. Now, some are beginning to throw some suspicion on this, not least because the distance between the consulate and where his phones were seems to prohibit that actually happening. But certainly there is enough speculation and confirmation from a number of different sources that the Turks do have some sort of evidence, which they may or may not have passed to US officials, and the screws are certainly turning against the Saudi authorities, with the Turkish foreign minister coming out today hinting, more than hinting, that the Saudi authorities inside the consulate have not given them access, have not allowed Turkish investigators to go inside and conduct their own forensic research and search throughout the consulate. And certainly there is a lot of pressure on the Saudi authorities to release their own CCTV. The CCTV that has come has been from a number of buildings around the consulate, nothing from inside the consulate or indeed from the consulate itself. And when we were outside the Consul General's house, which is just a short distance away from the consulate, the guard on duty there told us that none of the CCTV was working, which frankly seems absolutely inconceivable, considering the number of cameras they have outside both buildings. So there's an awful lot of pressure, international pressure, mounting on the Saudi authorities. And the longer it continues that they are unable to provide any evidence to the contrary, which actually contradicts what the Turkish authorities are accusing them of, the longer it's going to build up this momentum against the Saudi authorities, and they are turning into more and more of an international pariah, which, as you heard earlier, with business people and leading media organisations dropping out of their investment conference, which is due to be held in Riyadh in the next couple of weeks.
OK, Alex, thank you very much. And that story is, of course, likely to feature in tomorrow's papers. We're going to be taking a first look at the front pages. That's in our press preview tonight at 10:30 and then again at 11:30 with the writer and columnist Christina Patterson and the deputy editor of Spiked Online, Tom Slater. Dozens of flood warnings and alerts are in place for parts of Western Britain thanks to heavy rain brought by Storm Callum. People are being urged to stay alert with more than 20 centimetres or 8 inches of rain forecast for some areas. Thousands of people have been affected by the severe conditions. Wales has been hardest hit, with flooding causing damage to homes and businesses. Sky's Lisa Dowd has spent the day in one of the worst affected areas, Crickhowell.